While I would not kid you, being Orthodox, I would prefer to work with that kind of Ephraimite movement. It just does not have the numbers. And in the end, it's going to be whoever has numbers who will be the ones to get in. Exactly the opposite from the Bible. The Bible says, I don't work through numbers. I work through the 300 of Gideon to defeat the forces of God.
Hallelujah!
Here he's talking to Willis about getting on Time Magazine, getting on Oprah Winfrey, getting numbers, and he says, I don't like Jesus, Yeshua, but if that's where the numbers are, I'll deal with them. Okay? Big time. The great Ephraimite sellout. Okay, and if you think it's just one man, don't worry about it, Rabbi Moshe. You're making a mountain out of a mole. I can introduce you to Wendy, and I can introduce you to many others, like Ben Griffin, who was already put in jail, and Yair Davidi, who love you as long as you support his two-house movement. But if you're a Messianic Jew like me and Brian, you're out in the cold, because he hates us, he will not deal with us. He wants you home so they can get the idolatry out of your life, but Messianic Jews, they hate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Strange bedfellows.
Yes. Okay, let me continue. Being Orthodox, I would prefer to work with those kind of Ephraimites. Then his face livened up and said, so you have to make the cover of Time Magazine and have millions of people registered. In the meantime, I don't think he has 3 people who follow him. Remember we told you about a leader who thinks he's a leader, turns around, looks behind, and no one's following him? He's just taking a walk.
Long walk.
No, a long walk. Now, let's continue. I don't have any doubt, listen, I don't have any doubt that Nazarenes are going to have millions of people. This is Norman talking. My only question is when. I will do what I can. Already friends of mine in the video production industry have offered to help me with professional video filming in America, which will undoubtedly be a much higher quality than I could possibly put together on my own. I will have to simply block out some time in the middle of my winter tour for filming. Okay, now this is interesting. Taking it to the UN. Ted, you ready for this one?
Come on.
Chaim and I, this is the Orthodox representative. Who he represents, I don't know. Who Norman represents, I also don't know, but he's suffering from the Jerusalem complex. He's representing somebody. Me, myself, and I, the unholy trinity.
That's it.
Taking it to the UN. Chaim and I also discussed the prospect of taking our case before the United Nations. Essentially, this is the case. Here is another group of people, i.e. Ephraim, non-Jewish believers, beside the so-called Palestinians, who also have an ancient claim to the West Bank. This idea has several strengths, the biggest of which is that since we are Christians to the world loosely, rather than Muslims, the American people might more easily identify with our cause than with Yasser Arafat. But again, Chaim, the Orthodox Jew, stressed that if we were going to go that route, we would need some kind of official government front office recognition that could be recognized on a state level. We need a constitution. Now listen to this, and listen and weep. We need a constitution, an official halakha. We already have an official state religion, which is Nazarene Israel. Yeah, right. Not mine, Israel.
Come on.
The need for government and prophecy. Let's take another look at Ezekiel 37 to see the need for government and prophecy. And then I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But he says, verse 22, and let's turn there, let's see what he's referring to. Go to Ezekiel 37:22. Let's see how this gets twisted. Ezekiel 37:22. I will make them one nation in the land on the mountains of Israel. I will. Not Norman Willis. Yahweh said, I will make them one nation. There'll be one king over them. Let them no longer be 2 nations. Let them no longer be divided into 2 kingdoms. So instead of saying Yahweh will take the 2 sticks and make them one, he's saying, no, I've got to set up nation number 2 so that when Mashiach comes, he can take nation number 2 and reunite it with nation number 1. Oh, you give up. Did you get that? We know that there are 2 nations of Israel, right? There's Ephraim Israel and there's what? Jewish Israel. So when Yeshua returns, he's going to take these 2 houses and reunite them, right? But according to Norman, he looked at verse 22 and sees himself there. That first he has to create the nation of Joseph so that when Yeshua returns, there's a second nation. Oh. Never minding the fact that the nation will never be reborn apart from Yeshua. Yahweh pronounced a curse on Ephraim that they could never be reborn as a nation, only received back as individuals. Right? You Ephraimites didn't bring a nation with you. You came back as individuals. Correct? Okay. So this is where he gets this need for a government. Now let's continue. We need a constitution, an official halacha, and a government. Okay? Now, this is the most shocking. And this is what happens when you have a mental illness, and I'm not saying this to be cute, facetious, or otherwise. This is the Jerusalem syndrome. And I'm going to read this to you. And again, forgive me. I believe that thousands, well, I don't want to get into that mindset, or millions, but let's settle for hundreds around the world will use this to protect their sheep. Okay?
Hallelujah.
Now,
Baruch Hashem Yahweh.
Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Now you go, switching to government. Friends, now listen, now, hold on now. You got your seatbelt? All right, check your neighbor's seatbelt. Make sure the shoulder strap is on. The strap is on.
Wait a minute. The strap is
Roberto,
on.
do you have your strap on back there? Oh, you're facing the wrong way, so just make sure the strap is tight. All right. Switching to government. Friends, I am officially, now what makes it official? He's in an apartment in Jerusalem. I don't know what makes something official. Bells or tapes or maybe an 8-track tape. Friends, I am officially switching from ministry to government.
It's official.
It's official. I seek your ratification.
Oh!
Coronation.
I seek your ratification and approval as the first interim president
Oh boy.
of the House. Look at you guys, you're making me laugh. Of the House of Yosef.
Oh!
Now this man was a minister of the good news, preaching the regathering of both houses. He went to Jerusalem from Washington. He got overcome, and now he is officially leaving ministry. Well, I'll give him that much credit. Some of these Messianic rabbis that are in the ministry and deny the truth, they lie low as a snake. At least he's admitting he's not in the ministry anymore. Anybody that's circumventing the plan of Yahweh for both houses to return through Yahweh's Son is no longer in the ministry. He's got that part right.
That's good.
I seek your ratification and approval as the interim president of the House of Joseph. Watch this. I have diligently served you as a minister for the past 4 years. I am here in Jerusalem, forward placed, putting everything I have into establishing a pathway by which Ephraim can be regathered to the land. I hope I have demonstrated that I am willing to put his people first. Thank you, Miss Miriam. You are correct. I would not be making this switch did the situation not require it. Of course, he's got to fulfill Hosea 1:11. So the situation requires it. If I ever get like this, would you do me a favor? Cast the demons out of me. Would you do me a favor? Put me on the floor, put my butt on the floor, and cast them, hold me down, tie me up.
Get on your face.
Alright. I would not be making a switch did the situation not require it. However, the situation I find myself in is that we presently need a government, a constitution, an official, written halacha that can be approved by Judah, as in Yeshua hating Judah, as in Brit Hadashah denying Judah. We need them to ratify the Ephraimite constitution. Hello? This should alarm you. This is not a Star Wars guy who's come and visited our planet. This is a real human being writing this stuff to followers. This should alarm you. Okay. However, the situation I find myself in is we presently need a government, a constitution, an official written halacha that can be approved by Judah. Also, we will need our own yeshivot, unless we want to send our people into the Orthodox yeshivot, where they will undoubtedly be proselytized against Yeshua. And I know it is the American way to want everything for nothing. But I am no longer able to do this by myself. So now he admits he's by himself, but 2 paragraphs ago he was going to be on Time magazine with 100 million followers. But then he admits he's by himself, so which one is it? But he's going to have 100 million followers. You got to start with, he can't even get a minion. If he had to get a minion to pray in Orthodox Jewish synagogue, he can't even get a minion of 10. And then he admits he's alone, but he needs a constitution and a government. But he's alone. Well, if he's alone, why does he need a government or a constitution? Can't you govern yourself? Well, now if you're by yourself, do you need a government? Especially if you're under the Son's government, the Prince of Priests of his kingdom, of his government, there shall be no end. We're all individuals under his government. When he wants to reunite the two houses, let him do that. But to make these cacophony deals to get on Time Magazine and get made, this is crazy.
He's already doing it his way.
This is insane. But it's the beginning. I am telling you with a broken heart, this is just the start. Today's Messianic leaders will be tomorrow's Jerusalem syndrome nuts. You mark my words. Just like I was when I prophesied at the Union Conference. Many of these teachers that are teaching here right now, next year, within a year, will deny the faith. And I prophesy to you again, the Messianic movement is a condemned movement of men. You must encourage everyone you know who will listen to leave the Messianic movement. Who will listen? Now, let's continue. Okay. I know it is the American way to want everything for nothing, but I am no longer able to do this by myself. As efficient as I might become, the job has simply grown beyond what any one man can physically do, and so I am going to have some help. True. It can don't say anything, please. It can no longer be avoided. In other words, the switch from me is getting out of ministry. When did Yeshua get out of ministry? Is Yeshua going to have to get out of ministry to bring the two houses together? Is he going to have to form a government outside of his father to bring the two houses together? Since when do you have to get out of ministry and get into government? So he's now officially announcing he is now no longer a minister, rather he is a government official.
He never was a minister.
Thank you.
Think about it.
Thank you.
He wrote a book and he wrote some emails.
Thank you, but these people are dangerous. You're right. But these people are dangerous now, because people are listening. People are reading. Now people could say, well, Moshe, rather you're giving them exposure. People would know. No, guys, it's happening. I'm not giving them free exposure. All right, I get this. It's happening. We're history. All right, I'm trying to protect the few that are left. This week I had 2 congregations defect. Don't tell me I'm giving this guy free airtime. Don't tell me that. Just like the Nazis coming on, Oprah Winfrey or Maury Povich. It's get them out there. Let them condemn themselves. Let people see how stupid and foolish they are. How did Hitler do what he did? He kept everything submerged. Propaganda. He controlled the media. When you put these hate mongers out in front of the media, people don't want to be part of them. Now, I'm not saying he's a hate monger. I'm just saying he's got his own unique set of problems. Okay. Distributing the load. Now here's the part where the seatbelt got to get tight. Okay. Renewed covenant scripture calls for ministers to give away the word and then be substantiated by free will offerings. From my own experience, I can tell you that 6% of the people donate and the other 94% do nothing to contribute. Although Yahweh has met my personal needs, it strikes me as very unfair that 6% of the people should have to carry the load for the other 94%. I don't like that. If I were staying in ministry, like Ryan said, was a good point. If I was staying in ministry, I would continue, listen to this now, I would continue to live by free will offerings alone. However, now that I need to make the switch to government, come on, now that
Generalissimo Willis.
okay,
Everybody pays taxes.
curry somewhere. Now that going to the Talit, where are we? Taxes. Ted, you threw me for a curve. All right. However, now that I need to make the switch to government, listen to this. Ted, you're a prophet. Listen to this. It seems better to me that we ought to have some form of dues, or call it taxes.
Oh, you fuck! The Meshuggah party. Whoa. This guy's
In other words, nobody. You want to know? Can we talk turkey here? No one was sending him money in the ministry, so he's going into government and charging taxes.
I think he needs to Taxis. To get out of Jerusalem.
All right, let's continue. We ought to have some form of dues, or call it taxes if you prefer.
Oh.
Now, we can make a loophole for those who are truly poor.
Oh.
In the ministry?
If the people want. We want. But just in case you don't know, we're falling apart out here. Just we're okay though. We're trying to hang in there. We can make a loophole for those who are truly poor, if the people want. But we are going to have we have to have some sort of systematic leveling of the load. Well, I like that. That's better than revenue collecting. See, politicians are smart. They don't say, we're going to raise your taxes. They're going to say, we've got to do revenue increase. We've got to find some way to raise revenue. When they say raise revenue, read my lips, taxes. Okay, now.
This leveling of the load is for him to keep his mouth shut.
Level. Okay, now. I realize, we are going to have to make some sort of systematic leveling of the load. Yeah, help me. I realize that I am making a tremendous switch from the past. But in order to properly represent you, Ephraim, to the Israeli government, to the Jewish courts, and the United Nations, I am going to have the same kind of basic budget to work with. At this point, we need basic staff, security, and all the things that the PLO has.
Oh boy, guns!
Oh, did he say that?
Oh, no,
Right.
for the PLO.
Really?
Jail before you
Me?
This guy's gonna end up in jail faster than you can say.
Oh.
This is the guy that I couldn't drink grapefruit.
No Tariq mouth. Watch out. Vanya, you may want to get some grape.
Okay. At this point, we need a basic staff, security, and all the things that the PLO has. I also need some means of support. Listen. I also need some means of support that is not dependent upon earning your favor through my writings.
Oh.
As the talks begin to progress into deeper levels, I will be much less at liberty to tell you the details, blow by blow.
This guy's an ego man.
My posts might even become infrequent.
Hallelujah! The infrequent post.
They were warning me about books like that when I was over there.
See that? And it's getting worse.
They were gonna start coming in.
That's
like
right.
this.
That's right. But now they know the two-house truth. And it's dangerous.
Right. Oh, boy.
But this does not mean that I will not continue to need your prayers, and your support. But getting back to that, good, like we said, we ought to have some sort of form of dues, or call it taxes, if you will. Okay, and he signs the letter.
Your lordship.
No, wait, close. Your public servant.
She's no longer a servant of Mashiach.
It used to be, until about 2-3 weeks ago, your servant in Mashiach, Norman Willis. Now it is public servant,
Now we
as in
got,
public toilet,
we
pardon.
got three governors.
That's a good.
We got three governments in the land
So now he's a public servant who needs to collect taxes and be on Time Magazine. And it's basically this: the PLO is not going to get that land. Ephraim, it's your land. We need to organize and form like a PLO state in exile, so when Yeshua comes back, he can take the two nations and make them one. Because right now there's no nation in Ephraim. All you see are Jews. So Ephraim has to become a nation and appoint a leader. And good morning, America, I'm your leader. So he sees himself as a direct fulfillment of Hosea 1:11. Now, how did this come about? How can something like this, so hilarious and yet tragic, actually, how can this happen? How can this happen? Well, there are many doorways to Satan. One is dual covenant theology. believing the Jews are all in, so we gotta negotiate with them. We gotta work with them. We gotta let them back, they'll help us get back in the land. But it goes deeper than that. It's the Jerusalem syndrome. Let me read this to you and we'll start closing. Don't close your heart or your ears yet, because I want to read this to you.
Don't forget.
And Brian has a short announcement. We'll let you go early today also. But I want you to listen to this. How can this happen? Like Marilyn said, they warned me when she was in Israel, right? It was a few years ago. They warned her to stay away from the kooks walking the streets. Okay, well, this is all known.
Well, they warned the people, they want their own people, that there were people that were coming over from the States and different places
Mhm.
that are crazy, that are gonna try to do things like this.
Correct. I'm sorry, Rifki, you want something? The second one, okay. Thanks for, yes, thank you for reminding me. The Jerusalem, let me read this to you. This is the Jerusalem Syndrome by Leah Abramowitz, I would assume a non-believing Jewess. The Western Wall is one of Israel's biggest tourist attractions. At all hours of the day or night, visitors stream to the wall to pray, to take photographs, to participate in demonstrations or an army swearing in ceremonies, to attend a bar mitzvah or just absorb some of the historic and spiritual atmosphere that permeates the ancient site. Late at night, when the indirect lighting dramatizes every crevice, every seam in the huge stones, when the night sounds melt in the open plaza, a special kind of person is drawn to this spot. Those seeking a supernatural experience, psychologists identify them as having the Jerusalem syndrome.
Middle of the night.
By the way, this guy was fine when he was in the States. Wendy was fine. As soon as she got to the land, all these seductive spirits started working on her. You know, that's why when you go to Israel and you're not under Yahweh's covering and under His cloud and under His protection, you are a prime candidate. These people flipping out doesn't happen in the Galut, where they're supposed to be till Yeshua brings them home, to large measure. It happens in the land. No? Okay, those having the Jerusalem syndrome, they also add color and interest to the nocturnal scene at the Temple Mount. They include would-be Mashiachs, misfit. Now, is Norman and Wendy, are they would-be Mashiachs? Yes. Yeshua said in Luke 21:8, watch, they'll come in my name. Wendy denies Yeshua, but she says, I got the name Yahweh. I come in my name. I come in Yahweh's name. And now is the time. No, it's not. I don't see Mashiach. And Norman says, now is the time. We got to build an Ephraimite government in exile, collect taxes, and I'll be your president. Then when Mashiach comes, he'll take our government, reunite it with the established Jewish government, and the two governments will become one. P.S. Signed, your public servant. Okay. But we're going to see more of this, brothers and sisters. Not less. We're going to see more of this. I'm telling you, that's why I'm wasting this time, taking this time to warn you, to plead with you. If you're going to stick in the Messianic movement, you're going to come upon this all the time. It only takes one website. That's all it takes. I had an elder, 2 elders. They were very well versed in the Word of Yahweh. Yochanan Mascaro is not a spring chicken. He's a rabbi. He got caught, and I had to pull him out. It can happen to anybody. Anybody. Okay, these include would-be Mashiachs, misfits, misguided, spiritually involved, all flowering in the small hours. Those with the Jerusalem syndrome are literally intoxicated by the holy city. They revel in the atmosphere of the wall past midnight. They delight in the mystical aura they perceive it there at night. Their psyches are inflamed by the historical holiness in which they feel enveloped at this lonely hour. Even though there are other places in Jerusalem which attract these characters, the wall remains the favorite, especially among Jews. Have you noticed when these Messianics who deny Yeshua or deny the basics of the faith, how come they don't live in Tel Aviv, Ramat Gaim, the Negev, or Ariel? Isn't it funny how they all wind up in Jerusalem? Isn't that funny? They all just drawn to Jerusalem. The wall remains a favorite, especially among Jews. The Jerusalem syndrome was first clinically identified by Dr. Yair Bar-El, formerly director of the Kfar Shaul Psychiatric Hospital, and now district psychiatrist for the Ministry of Health. Bar-El Bar-El studied 470 tourists who were referred to Kfar Shaul for a treatment between 1979 and 1993. On the basis of his work with these visitors, who had been declared temporarily insane, reached some fascinating conclusions. Kfar Shaul is the obvious place to carry out this study, as it is the duty psychiatric hospital for tourists who display mental health disturbances.
Probably in Jerusalem.
Yes, it is. Of the 470 visitors from all over the world who were hospitalized, 66% were Jews, 33% were Christians, 1% had no known religious affiliation. Bar-El is quick to point out that it is not only tourists who demonstrate behavior that indicates the Jerusalem syndrome. In fact, local residents can be temporarily or permanently affected as well. The peak time for visitors who are intoxicated by the Jerusalem syndrome or in the Holy City is not surprisingly during the holiday seasons like Christmas, the Jewish high holy days, Easter and Passover, or during the summer months of July and August. Bar-El divides the patients into two broad categories: those with previous psychiatric histories, either diagnosed or undiagnosed, and those with no previous psychiatric history. The pilgrim tourists studied demonstrated remarkably similar patterns of disintegration. The symptoms generally appeared on the second day of their arrival in Jerusalem. Hey, don't take long, does it?
No.
Ay, ay, ay.
Overtook.
When they began to feel an inexplicable nervousness and anxiety. If they came with a group or family, they suddenly felt the need to be on their own and isolated, as opposed to having millions of followers. They would often begin to perform acts of purification, cleansing showers, taking showers, immersing in mikveh. Often the patients changed their clothes in mikveh 10 to 20 times daily. Preferring white robes, now you know why I dress in purple.
Schmitz.
Preferring white robes in an effort to resemble biblical figures, because most of them chose to identify themselves with a character from the New or Old Testament. Women always chose to emulate a woman from the Bible when men chose a male figure. This type of behavior does not, of course, inevitably lead to hospitalization in a psychiatric ward. Indeed, most of those affected by the Jerusalem syndrome do not cause any disturbance and are at worst a nuisance or a mild source of amusement. But a certain percentage of the people are severely disturbed and will often behave in a way that demands a psychiatric intervention, at least temporarily. One Danish teacher who had come to the Holy City 5 times in the last 5 years felt it was the only place in the world where he can communicate with Jesus directly. However, when he started to talk at the top of his lungs to the Virgin Mary sitting on top of the Mosque of Omar, he required hospitalization. Mary, Mom, la Madonna, ¿dónde? En la mosca. Cerca la mosca. ¿Qué? Madonna, ¿sí? ¿Qué es Madonna? Canto loco, Madonna. All right. Sometime, according to Dr. Bar-El, the Jerusalem syndrome victims will have definite religious